Hi, Clutter Fairy fans. This is the Clutter Fairy Weekly for August 5th, 2025. I'm your co-host, Ed Gumnick, and I'm speaking with Gayle Goddard, certified professional organizer and owner of the Clutter Fairy in Houston, Texas.
Hi, everybody. The Clutter Fairy Weekly is the webcast and podcast that digs deep into the clutter that piles up between you and the life that you want to be living. We explore the habits and behaviors that lead to clutter, and we suggest strategies to slow the accumulation, reduce the collection, and comfortably manage the stuff we decide to keep.
If you're new to our Zoom meeting, we want to let you know that you can share your questions and comments via the chat, and I'll try to make sure Gayle addresses them before we move on to another topic. You can also use the raise hand feature if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment yourself via audio or video. And we're streaming the webcast on Facebook, so you can share your questions and comments there, and I'll relay them to Gayle. We're going to start by talking about last week's Weekly Tittle, which was called Redefining Organized. The assignment was to come up with a personal definition of organized to use for measuring success in your decluttering and organizing efforts. Let's hear from our participants in Zoom and on Facebook who wrote a new definition for organized for yourself this week. Please let us know in the comments. YouTube viewer Tennessee Nana shared her Tittle report in a comment. Nana writes, "Organized to me means similar items neatly arranged together and in an area that's convenient for their use or enjoyment."
Hi, Tennessee Nana. You've been an audience member for a long time. We're happy that you're still hanging out with us. Thanks so much. I really like your definition. It covers the basics of organizing for sure. The highlight for me there is that the items are in an area that's convenient to use. To me, having the items that are needed the most or easily accessible is the whole point of getting organized and maintaining it all. So you can grab and use what you need quickly and without struggle. I see so many clients just accept a level of struggle in their homes where getting out anything takes a lot of moving stuff around, stacking things to the side to get to other things, unpacking a tightly packed box to retrieve something they need, and then it all has to go back in place again. And that is way too much struggle just to get something that you need. My clients get used to that struggle and just accept it. And I'm there to make that struggle go away as much as I can, giving the living and storage space of the home and the needs of the client. So I appreciate your definition. Thank you so much. And I agree with it. What's
Yeah,
happening, Miss
that's
Anita? I saw Miss Anita had her hand up.
uh we'll have to go ahead and unmute yourself, Anita. What you got?
There we go. Um, the thing for me is of course, to me, organization means having things basically where they're going to be used so that I can get to them easily. But for me, it also has to be a system that makes it easy to put them back in those
Uh-huh.
places.
Yeah.
Because I am organized, but I am not a neat person, not by a long shot.
Right.
So if I got a great tip from the clutter book that we're going to be reading next. I took I can't tell you how many t-shirts I have accumulated. And I haven't even counted them all, but I will but I got like 10 different categories, with sleeves and without sleeves and with collars. All right. I've been just I tried each one on. And if it didn't look good, or for some reason there was something, I just pitched it. Or if I had too many of the same thing, how many shirts from one vacation place can you use? But they had a tip for someone that said, don't get rid of your bureau drawers and put things on shelves in your closet. And I was already doing that. But what I did was I now roll the shirts and I put them in like sausages,
Right.
and I can see every single shirt and I know exactly which shirt is which. Like the print ones, I can see even I have a category for political shirts, things with writing on them. And I can tell the way I've rolled them, I can tell from the print which one that is. This one's Democratic, this one's anti this one's, and that is really making this difference. And I have a whole bag now to take to Goodwill the bag will get bigger.
That's great. That's perfectly wonderful.
But it has to be easy to put away because
Yeah.
that's my big problem. I don't put anything away.
Yeah, and I find that the process of putting away is so easily interrupted. The more steps there are, that you have to do to put something up, the harder you have to struggle to put it away, the quicker that task is abandoned. And so the fact that it's easy to put away, I mean, there's something about getting it out that people accept more level of struggle getting it out than they do trying to put it away. Like the annoyance factor in putting something away is super high. And so people get annoyed quickly, and you have
Yeah.
to create systems that are easy to put stuff back.
Yeah. If it's hard,
And
you won't do it.
exactly, the less
You'll
steps, the better.
you'll find an excuse.
Yeah,
You'll
you
find a
just
horizontal
divert.
surface on the way to the inconvenient storage place.
And that's how you know that systems aren't working 100%. Like I can look at something and go, "Oh, that's a system that's not working," because like there'll be the shredder and then there'll be 6 inches of paper on top of the shredder,
Yeah.
which means that the amount of stuff that you want to shred is not handleable by the shredder that you have or the time that you have to shred it. So the idea that you're going to shred your stuff, I'm putting in air quotes, is a failed system if you have, a huge stack of backlog of shredding, or if there's a place to put away something in the kitchen and yet that is considered a chore that can't be accomplished without a bunch of time or more time than you're willing to do. And the object sits outside where it's supposed to go all the time and never actually gets put away. That's another failed system. It's too hard to put it up, therefore, it's not really working as a system. And it's easy to spot those places where the filing is a good one. There's files and it's too hard to file the paper. And so there's a big stack of things to be filed, waiting to be put away, and it never goes down because it's too hard to do. And so that means that there's a system failure there. I see that a lot. And it's obvious when you're annoyed by putting it away because it's never actually put away. That's your clue that you don't like doing it and it's too hard. So read the signals in the room, right? Thanks for that. I appreciate it, Anita.
Okay, let's get some more tittle reports.
Okay,
Lise says her definition of organized is everything in its place that is easily accessible to use and maintain.
there you go. That's another good version of it.
And then some other progress reports. Jacqueline says, several weeks ago, the topic of conversation was collections. I wanted to reduce the number of jigsaw puzzles that I keep on hand in my collection. So I
Mm.
listed a bunch for sale on Facebook Marketplace and have sold 13 puzzles.
Awesome.
That frees
13
up,
puzzle boxes is that's like probably 26 or 28 inches, depending on how tall the puzzle box is. That's great.
yeah, that frees up quite a bit of shelf space. Continuing with my list of someday to do projects, I'm working on sewing a duvet cover out of 2 orphan flat sheets. I love when I can repurpose something and give it new life.
Good for you. Well, I'm glad you're working on that. That gets those 2 sheets becoming something else, and hopefully you're having fun doing the sewing. Anybody that whips out the sewing machine as the solution to the problem is somebody that likes to sew. So good for you, and I'm glad you're having fun on the sewing machine.
May says, I'm tossing all old paper files and their contents. One big pile to go to the UPS store for shredding. The shredding has been slowing me down just too
Mm,
much. The UPS store charges $1 per pound with a special of buy 10 pounds, get 10 pounds free.
there you go. That works. And that's a great way, like, because you don't want the shredding to just take forever, right? Like, anytime you try to do it at home by yourself, it takes so much physical time to run it through the shredder because you can't put 100 sheets in the shredder. You got to put a few in at a time. And you have to oil the machine and you have to let it overheat and you have to stop. And it's like that is way too much hassle. You need to go straight to the industrial machines, pay to let somebody with, massive teeth, some shredder with massive teeth, chew up your paper, an inch at a time and let it be done in a hurry. And there is nothing more satisfying than spending 30 minutes and having all of your shredding done. And even if you're paying at the end, then your shredding is complete and you are, whoosh, that was easy. You'll be so relieved when it goes away in a hurry. And you'll get a bunch of your free time back. So good job.
And $10 to be rid of 20 pounds of paper sounds like a reasonable deal.
Right? It is not too expensive.
I haven't priced pay shredding in a while. But
And there's always places, there's always commercial operations that do document shredding for corporations, big companies that drive and go to places.
right,
And they often have a free shred day, a free drop off day where you go to their location and drop off boxes during a time window between, Friday afternoons between 2 and 5. They will
right.
accept boxes at their location, 5 box limit or whatever for free. So if you do a little Googling in your neighborhood, you can probably find a document company that has a free shred window. But you can also just go to the Office Depot and pay them to do it, and it'll be done in a hurry.
Yeah. Okay, Naomi says the moral of this story is a bad one because the just in case worked out. My coffee maker stopped working, so while looking for a replacement, I got out the little glass cylinder with a plunger thing, which can
Mm.
be put back on the shelf between uses. But I've developed a deep love for the empty space on the counter where the coffee maker used to sit. So I am going to just continue using the plunger thing and not buy a coffee maker.
There you go. That's okay. You adjusted to something that you had and you reclaimed some space from where the coffee maker used to be. And if you prefer that, and homemade, pressed coffee, and you're cool with all that, I think you accidentally fell into a better solution for yourself. I like that. That's
Well,
good.
and it's not a bad moral. We're not entirely against just in case items, especially when it's something as mission critical as the coffee
As
maker.
coffee.
I do not think there's anything wrong with having a backup coffee
A
maker.
backup coffee plan, yes. Yes, says the chick who is addicted to morning coffee, 100%.
You know what a coffee drinker I
I know.
always used to be. I'm not so much anymore because I started taking another medication in recent years that seems to screw with my metabolism for caffeine. So I'm super, super sensitive now.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, I now I just drink like 1 cup of decaf instant in the morning, and that's my coffee for the day.
Wow, that's a
Yeah,
major shift from you, from the guy who would
seriously.
drink coffee from morning to night
Hmm.
in large mugs. Yeah, we spent so much time in the early days of working on the Clutter Fairy in coffee
In
shops,
coffee shops, yeah.
drinking coffee and talking about Clutter Fairy and doing plans and writing stuff. And the Clutter Fairy was built on coffee. That's basically the truth. So I'm quite surprised to hear that yeah, Naomi says my condolences.
EJ commented on Naomi's post and said, Naomi's comment said, "Great learning experience. Essentially, you had two coffee making devices, decluttered in quotes the broken coffee maker,
Right.
and kept the French press. So now you have more space and figured out you like it better."
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, nobody likes to mess with their coffee system too much. It's
Right?
always a shock to think about, oh, I'm going to change my coffee system. Oh no. So the circumstances were thrust upon you, but you got a great result. That's awesome.
Okay, we should stop talking about coffee and get on with products because
Okay.
we want to make sure we leave ourselves enough time to talk about the main topic.
Organizing.
You've done the tough work of declutterizing, and now it's time to organize the treasures you've decided to keep. If putting stuff away is the part of the project that trips you up, this week's show is for you. Today, we're going to discuss how to corral your collections with a few of our favorite products and creative organizing solutions.
I'm not a lot like other organizers out there in that I'm not heavy on adding a lot of products into an organizing project. Products can become clutter too really easily. So I lean on making sure to declutter what you really don't need so you're not storing more than you actually want and use. So how about we start with some ground rules for using products in your organizing projects? First, always declutter before you shop for storage products. Whenever I give my talk about the most common organizing mistakes, I try to drive home this crucial point. If you rush out to the Container Store or to IKEA to look for the pretty bins and the baskets before you've gathered and sorted and thinned your collections, you'll end up with way more or fewer containers than you really need, or items that are not quite right for the task at hand, and you will have spent a bunch of money that you are sorry that you spent. So you want to think about what the right kind of product is for you. What materials, colors, finishes are going to complement your style and space. How sustainable are the materials that you'll use? How long will they last? To paraphrase the carpenter's rule, you want to measure twice and buy once. So, in other words, double check that the containers that you plan to buy, A, will fit the space in which you plan to store them, and the items that they'll need to contain, they'll actually fit the items that you need to contain. So, a lot of times I see clients buy products that when I look at what they want to put in them, I'm immediately like, oh, that's way too small. That's not going to hold the collection. So I know that some people are more spatially relation challenged than others, and they have a hard time. So you want to look at the volume of stuff that you have and measure it in terms of inches or depth or whatever, and keep that in mind when you're looking at the product. So a lot of times people find a product and go, oh, that'll work. And I'm looking at the product and thinking that's going to hold about a quarter of what you have right there. It's not even close to the amount of right size. So do the measuring thing in terms of volume and shape, height and depth to make sure that the product that you want to put in there is going to actually fit in the organizing product you're buying. Don't let the excess products from your organizing projects turn into another category of clutter in your house. If it turns out that you've overbought, don't let too much time go by after you complete your projects to return the unused products. If it's too late to return those containers, then give them away or donate them instead of keeping them for just in case. But if you do find yourself with leftover containers from previous projects, you should by all means shop from your own store at whatever stage of your next project where you need to get products. If you have storage products that are still in good shape and they're clean enough and you like how they would work, then it's worth going to grab and use what you have at home. And you guys have heard me say shop for your own store before. I use that in all kinds of contexts, but in this context, go find your empty containers and see if you have something that will work before you try to go shopping. Now that we've set some ground rules, I do have some favorite products that I go to over and over, and I just want to show you guys what those are. Ed's going to throw up some pictures as we go so that you can see what I'm talking about.
Let's make sure that's working.
Make sure
There
you're
we
ready
go.
to do that. Okay,
Do y'all see that clear plastic bin?
I see it.
Okay.
Okay. So the first one is clear plastic bins, and by this I mean crystal clear acrylic type of bins. Of course, they're more expensive because the universe is cruel, but the truly clear ones make using them so much easier. So obviously you can see in the bins without lifting a lid to look inside, but they're also built to stack on top of each other. And unlike other boxes that might be used for shoes, for example, the bottoms and the sides of the boxes are straight instead of flared at an angle sometimes, or they have bottoms that have, these shoe boxes have bottoms that have sort of curved, concave, convex, whichever one it is, insides that make it not really be flat on the bottom of the box. And so it's hard to stack things without straight sides and straight bottoms. So the particular brand that I'm thinking of is called iDesign. That's the brand product that I look for. And you can get them at the Container Store. I did a Google search. They have them at Target. They have some at Pottery Barn. They have them at Michael's. I just got that list from a quick Google search for iDesign products. They have lines of products for the fridge, for the kitchen, for the pantry, and they can be used almost anywhere with a shelf. And the size variety is really great too. So they have ones that have lids, ones that don't. They have ones that have the holes in the side, and some of them that have like handles on the edge to be pulled. They have long, narrow things, like really narrow in the front and then long and narrow that are designed to go inside the fridge on the shelves. So you can containerize things in the fridge. But those long, narrow shelves work in other places too, where you have, the point of the fridge containers being narrow across the front and long is that it uses good space, makes good use of the horizontal space that goes deep into the fridge. And so if you have long, deep shelves in a closet somewhere, those long, narrow containers work just as well in those long, deep shelves as they do in the fridge. So they have lots of products. They have crazy variety. You can find almost any size and shape that you want, from really small to really big, and they'll be a good investment for you to use. And you may, if you have to buy them over time, that's fine. You can buy them a little bit at a time, but
Yeah, they're not cheap. The
they're not
good
cheap.
acrylic stuff is not cheap. Yeah.
No, it's not. But it's worth it to have that crystal clear type of bin. So that's clear plastic bins. Okay, now we're going to go to drawer dividers. A drawer is a big, open, shallow box. And you know what a junk drawer looks like. It's a floating sea of scrambled objects floating around in that drawer. But if you insert drawer dividers, you can put things in a drawer in categories, and they can't float the drawer as a big sea of stuff. They can usually be moved around too. Like the drawer dividers aren't permanent. They do make some that are designed to be like, they have sticky on the end, so they're designed to be locked into place with what in essence is a tape or a glue, but they don't all. Some of them just use it by, you adjust it to this custom size, and then they have a locking mechanism to lock them in place. So you can buy the kind that are just lock in place, and then you can put them in place, and they can be moved around depending on if the contents change, if you decide that you think it works better if this is bigger slot or little slot, you can work them around, is what I'm saying, and adjust them to what you're using. These products are great for a shallow drawer. So any kind of shallow drawer, obviously they design these for the kitchen drawers, the top shallow drawers in the kitchen, but they can be used in any other kind of shallow drawer as well. They're made to expand and fit really tight, so they work. I mean, they're designed to be custom adapted to whatever you're trying to put them in. And if you Google that drawer dividers list, you can find a million options, and there's all kinds of materials. And the trick is really to measure from. It isn't that they usually make the expandable ones to fit the depth of the drawer, but your trick is to notice that from the floor inside the drawer, from the bottom of the drawer up to the opening of where the drawer slides in, that's the threshold that you have to be able to get past. If you put the drawer divider in, you have to be able to open and close the drawer. So the divider can't be taller than the open from the inside the bottom of the shelf to the top of the drawer opening, which is different than probably the facing of the drawer front might be taller, and
Right.
you know,
Probably
that kind of
overlap some space below and sometimes above. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
you have to just be careful that you get a height of drawer divider that will slide through your drawer opening once it's installed. And that's the only trick. And as long as that works, you're in good shape. And it's a way to divide a long, shallow drawer without having to add in containers. Um, it's it's a great thing. I mean, they design them for a kitchen drawer where you're putting all the cooking utensils, right? Those are all long and narrow and irritating. And adding in a container most of the time doesn't really help for those big things. So I use a combination of drawer dividers to separate the long and narrow stuff. And then I usually have a couple of containers because there's always little small kitcheny things, like think of wine stoppers, or there's some little tool, like a nutcracker is a small narrow tool that isn't the full depth of the drawer like most of them. So it's I use a combination of drawer dividers and occasionally another little container to hold small stuff. But it's a great way to sort of flexibly subdivide your drawer so that stuff doesn't get as scrambled as badly, and totally worth it wherever you stick it in there. Okay, so the next one is shelf risers, and this is really a staple for any pantry. That way you can stack all those various types of canned goods and see them all on display. And because they really, when you go up the back, then they're sitting higher, so you can still see the can front, even though they're, 3 or 4 deep. So this is a 3-tier one. I've seen ones that are also 4, and they make them so that they can expand out left and right as well. So this particular one is a single, but then they do make versions of it that are sort of like one is slightly inside the other, and when you can pull it out to expand it to be a slightly wider. So They're great for the kitchen stuff, like I said, but they really work to display any kind of collection. So I use some risers in my bead storage to rack. I have a bunch of small little screw top towers of small beads, and I stand those little towers up on a riser in one area. And so it's really a great way to display a collection of small items in particular. Um, you know, you know what the size of a can of a tomato sauce can is. So they're not very wide. But any small collection that's that size of a can or smaller can be displayed on those little racks very easily. And so it's a great way if you have a collection and you're trying to show all the collection, having those little risers lets you show more of them in a tighter space. And it's a great way to add in and make things easily seen, right? So I'm going to tell you about my favorite box cutter. This is a ceramic blade model with a handle that automatically retracts when you let it go. So you have to push it down, and you can see that that little slider part is pushed down. It's in the on position. That's why the blade is showing at the bottom, and it doesn't lock out. You just push it out and hold it out while you cut, and then when you let go, the blade automatically springs back. And that to me is a game changer. When I realized that I could have one that doesn't lock out in position, but you push it out and it always locks back, it springs back out into hiding. I worried about the box cutter every time I use it. I would sit it down and I'd be all concerned, like the blade's out. I don't want to hurt somebody. I don't want to cut myself. I don't, it made me very nervous to have the box cutter open. And so I was constantly opening and closing it all the time. And I found that that slowed me down. And this one, A, it's an ergonomic handle, so it's curved and it's easy to hold on to. And B, I push it out just long enough to get the blade to cut. And then when I'm done, I let go of it and I don't even have to think about it because I know the blade's already retracted. So that took a bunch of worry off my mind. And I did not want, how many times have you accidentally caught yourself with a box cutter while you're moving it around? And so this one makes me super happy, and I really do enjoy the shape of it. I find it's easier to hold and push the blade out than with my thumb than another box cutter. I feel like I have better control of the box cutter in a whole bunch of ways. So
And
it's called
Slice uses a ceramic blade too, so it stays sharp for a really long time. And then I
right.
think that particular model that we were showing you, they're replaceable blades.
Yes, and they come with an extra. So when you buy it, it has a
Okay.
ceramic blade in it that stays in good shape longer than a regular blade. And then they have a replacement one that's stored in the handle. So you can really get along with those blades for a long time. They're easy to clean. I know when you box cut, you end up with a bunch of sticky on the box cutter blade after a while. And so that ceramic blade is pretty easy to clean. And it's not like a razor that's like so super sharp. It's just pointy enough to poke through box tape and cut through cardboard and stuff. And so I find it's just a safer, superior product for the kind of stuff that I use it for. And it's worth considering. So here's another one that everybody thinks is kind of innocuous, but I think a small blade letter opener, these little letter openers, like this is one that's from Office Depot. It's very tiny. The blade is hidden. It has a little pointy part to start an envelope. And this is the kind that everybody uses as a branded product for their business. When you search on these, you get a whole bunch of, here's where you can buy 5,000 of them with your logo on them or whatever. Like that. Like I had to search for a minute to find one that's like, oh, Office Depot sells these plain ones, right? They're easy to grip. They open up a stack of mail much faster than your fingers or scissors, or even I find it easier than a letter opener because the little pointy stick at the bottom helps you thread the edge of the envelope quickly. And so I can turn a stack of mail over that has been sitting in a client's house for a long time and sit there with my letter opener and rip a million times, get the whole stack open in a flash, and then I'm pulling stuff out and separating, recycling immediately and quickly, getting down to the one piece of paper in all of that shrapnel that is important and deciding whether it's necessary or not. And it helps me blow through mail in a client's house super, super fast. So it is a great handheld tool. I carry them in my purse all the time. It's a great way to do it without ruining your manicure and messing up your nails and tearing through a bunch of envelopes. You will eventually mess up your nails. So this saves your nails and it lets you do it fast and furious. And it's really a great little inexpensive, super helpful tool. Okay, the next one is something I actually have in my own purse. Small colored fine mesh bags with a zipper. And these are really great for use in your purse or your luggage. They function like drawer dividers for your purse. So you can put over-the-counter meds in one, you can put makeup in one, you can put personal hygiene in one. I have one that has a little, like I got down to the little leftover roll of toilet paper. So I peeled off the little bit of toilet paper and put it inside a mesh bag. You can keep, I have some wipes in there. I have some poo spray in there. That kind of, I have a little bag
Poopery.
that's, yeah, I have poopery, exactly. And so I have this little pouch that is, this is, if I have to go to the bathroom and I am not sure about the availability of toilet paper, I can take my little pouch with me and I'm covered. So I have little things in my purse like that that make it easy for me to grab and go the right thing. I have a bag that has um, credit card holders in it, and one of them is gift cards, and one of them is credit cards that I'm not in use all the time. And so when I need those cards, I know which color mesh bag those are in. And so it makes it easy for you to subdivide your purse, put like things together into these mesh bags. They're flexible, they bend, they're not stiff. And so they fit in the purses. They can be moved around easily. You can grab and find. You can tell somebody, go grab the blue pouch out of my purse and get exactly what you want. And then if for those of you that like to change purses all the time to match your outfits, it makes navigating from one purse to the other easier because you're just grabbing 4 or 5 pouches out and moving them over. And so it makes it super easy if you trade out your purses all the time. I don't, but I can drive, reach over with my hand, put my hand in a specific place in my purse, pull out a mesh bag that I want, and know exactly what's in that bag. And I can do it without looking. So it's a way to, get yourself in and out of your purse super easy. And I find those things, those the fine mesh ones, they're not waterproof, right? Because they are truly a mesh, but it does make it easy to see, and also generally contains it well. And it's not like putting a Ziploc bag in your purse that's going to get ripped or dusty, dirty quickly. And if you find that it's gotten dirty from hanging around your purse, because we all know dirt migrates into our purses in ways that we don't understand. Like somehow you open your purse and there's a bunch of dirt at the bottom and you don't know where it came from. So if you start to think that those mesh bags are getting dirty, you can take them out and rinse them out in the sink and let them dry, and they'll dry really quickly. So it's easy to clean and it's easy to manage, and I find them super helpful for a million different things. So good thing to consider. The last one I'm going to throw up is magazine holders. And magazine holders are another really versatile product that can be adapted to many things besides magazines. Basically, it's a holder for anything flat and tall. So I use them in my beadroom to hold loose paper project instructions. I use them in my bookshelf to hold really slim books that don't stand up well loosely without curling. Like sometimes you have long, skinny books and you try to stand them up and they sort of curl over, they flop over, and they're constantly making your books not stand up straight, and it's super annoying. But you can put them in a magazine holder and it will help them keep their shape, and it keeps them from messing up the rest of your books and standing up. And so it's a really good use for that. You can use them in the kitchen for cutting boards if there's a smaller size one. I have a collection of cutting boards that I have, we all have big ones and little ones, right? And so the little ones, I've seen people with they have flexible plastic ones that are, this is for vegetables, this is for meat, this is for, and so you can, one's for fish. So you can slot them into a magazine holder to hold them upright if you want. Otherwise, they're really floppy and they flop around everywhere, and they don't slide in and out of drawers well, and they're annoying. So it's a good thing to do with them. I also use them in my office. You can use them to hold all those flat, floppy office supplies like sheet protectors. You have paper pouches to hold documents, file folders that are loose, paper pads, like if you have a notepad that has loose paper in it, document pouches, all those things that are sort of floppy, and trying to stand them up anywhere or storing them in the drawer. If you store them in the drawer, they're all a big pile and you can't see what they are. But if you stand them up into a magazine holder, you can see, oh, there's a document pouch, there's a sheet protector, there's a pad. It's easier to see them, and they're corralled and they're not slipping and sliding all over the place, which is what usually happens. So you can even store printer paper in them. If you think of them, when you open a printer nowadays, people, particularly at home, the printer does not hold a whole packet of paper when you open it. So you rip open the container, the paper covering of the paper packet, and then it's loose paper with a thing ripped off, and it's sloppy and it's messy and it's annoying. But you can take that half empty paper packet and stick it inside a magazine holder, and it will help it hold its shape, help it hold it upright. And the fact that it's in that torn paper, you can tear off the excess and just have it in the bottom half of a paper packet. And then it's there to, hold on to what you got. So it's a good way to manage your loose paper. So I just need the caveat is that not all magazine holders are created equal. Some are smaller across the front, and they're narrower. They're not as deep, front to back. So you can get some that are almost 6 inches wide, and then some that are smaller. And so they have sort of slightly smaller and larger dimensions. So you want to look for a holder that works well with what you're trying to store, even if it's actually storing magazines. But they do, they're not all the same depth from front to back. So just consider what you're trying to do. If you're trying to do office supplies, you probably want one that's slightly deeper than not. So it'll be easier to put, because not all the office supplies are 8.5 by 11. Sometimes they're 9 by 12, for instance, or 10 by. So if you want a magazine holder that's slightly deeper to hold that kind of stuff, you can just look for that. I will say that, he's showing the magazine holder in the upright position, but you can turn it around and lay it down on its back, so that sometimes the magazine holders are too tall to put on a bookshelf. But if you lay it on its back, then you have the shorter depth instead of the height to use. And so it stores, and you put things in from the front instead of from the top. So you can turn it on its back and then be loading things in from the front. And sometimes and we were talking earlier about having it be easier to put stuff away. If the hole is towards you forward, then it's easier to put something away. So worth giving it a shot, changing its stature, it's changing how it's oriented, will make a difference in how you use it. So those are my product ideas. Do we need a break here to talk about it a little bit, or should I
No,
keep going?
you covered a lot. Actually, Lee said, I love magazine holders used for printer paper and envelopes. And
Mm.
Deborah mentioned I use them for paper sorting on a shelf that is too short for them. I turn them on the side and can slot everything in easily.
There you go. Exactly what I said. See, you
And
guys are already on it.
right, I use them in my art supplies for oddball stuff.
They're great for sketch pads.
Specialty papers.
Mm.
I have a template I've made that I use to when I want to start a drawing from a grid. I have a pinhole grid piece of cardstock that I use over and over and over again, and it goes in there. And
Yeah, it's like that. It's just that tall, thin, flat stuff that any way that you try to store it, the only way for it to keep its shape without a magazine holder is to stack it all flat, and then you have to dig down through a
dig
stack to
every
get to
time,
something.
right?
But if you put it in a magazine holder that's narrow enough, you can keep this stuff generally flat with its companions in there, and it's easy to go in and reach the thing that you exactly want. So it's an innocuous little thing that people think is just for magazines, but the truth is it's a great container that you can just use anywhere. Basically, it'll hold a lot of things that are otherwise irritating to corral, and it takes out the irritation factor, which is wonderful.
Suzanne mentions I like to turn them away for private papers, so you can turn it around
Ooh,
so the opening
right.
faces back.
Well, and they do sometimes have little label things on the outside of the back for that exact reason. So if you turn it away, so that the opening is behind and the full back is forward, then there's a label little picture frame down there for you to slot a label in to know what it is, which is great. Absolutely.
Okay, let's
We have Miss
um,
Pat up at the top there.
go ahead, Pat.
You got to unlock yourself, unmute yourself.
Unmute. Yeah,
Fine. Okay.
There you are. You
there
found
you
it.
go.
Okay. Some time ago, I bought some magazine holders that when they're turned away, they actually look like books.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
I bet those
So
are nice.
they look good on a bookshelf. Probably Amazon.
Right. But I
Yeah.
like that. You know, they do make all kinds of magazine holders out of all kinds of materials, right? And so
Yeah.
if you want, some people prefer that universality of look where it's all the same and that
Mm-hmm.
is easier on their eyes. And so having them turned away and have them all look like a row of books exactly the same, I'm sure that's very pleasing to look at.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great idea. Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Okay, Gail.
All right, let's go to solutions then.
Yeah.
We did also want to talk a little bit, not just about products, but we added a few other things like it's time to get out your label maker and be able to label some of your systems. I think anything is better organized, any products are better organized if they have a label on them. So even if you can see in clearly, some people really want the label in the front to be able to quickly orient to what they're doing. It also makes it easier for other people to participate in your systems. So if
Right.
you built the systems and the other person wasn't around, they don't know what's in those boxes. They can look at them and generally see stuff, but that may not mean anything to them. So adding the labels makes it easy for other people to use the systems and hopefully put things away when when they encounter the possibility. You also want to try to use vertical space in terms of organizing. A lot of times, it isn't that you need a better product, it's that you need a product that will help you go up the wall or go up in a tower, that'll make use of stuff that goes up over your head. And so consider solutions that involve using vertical space, hanging things on the wall, or using tall, narrow towers to create organizing systems or storage capacity that is vertical instead of horizontal. And you can get creative with furniture. There's a link that Ed provided for me that's here's a wine rack as a yarn storage. So somebody took a wine rack and was using it to store yarn instead. Like you guys are all creative people and you can take pieces of furniture and figure out an alternative use for them. So one of the things that I did for yarn was IKEA has a stacking collection of bins with pop-up lids that are for recycling. They've designed them to capture and subdivide recycling, but they're large boxes that stack on each other. And so it's a great way to store yarn by category into these stacking bins that then take use of the vertical space because they stack up one on top of each other. And yarn is, it's kind of a thick, dense product, even though it's squishy, it takes up, space. And so you want to use something that makes it easy to put yarn in and out. And so those bins work for me. Think outside the box to use stuff that you already have. So just because something was built to be used for one purpose doesn't mean it can't be used some other way. So things can be adapted in new ways if you're creative. So like I adapted magazine holders to a whole bunch of other stuff, you can look at stuff that you have and see if, yes, I know this was designed to hold XYZ, but can I use this container in some other place in some other way? To get a little creative, give it a shot. You can try it and see if it works. If it doesn't work, trade it out for something else. Okay.
Lots of comments
Okay.
about people coming up with their own solutions for some of these
Mm,
very things we've talked about. I know, let's see, Connie said she's turned cereal boxes into the equivalent of magazine holders.
right. It's a long, tall, narrow box. And if you buy a family size, it's a really long, really tall, narrow box. It'll hold a lot of stuff.
And let's see, someone also mentioned, oh, Suzanne says, I remove the top of a pretty Kleenex or tissue box now and then in a dresser drawer.
Right? Because that's, a little flat, narrow container that can be reused. That's awesome.
And Lynn mentioned shoe boxes, and separately, the lids of shoe boxes are great for organizing drawers.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Because you really just need something that creates a lip,
An
right? For you to
edge,
contain
yeah.
stuff. So,
Yeah, you just need a little boundary.
yeah, yeah,
M mentions I chop off cereal and detergent boxes to make drawer dividers.
that works. And that way you can custom fit them to your drawer, right? So they don't get caught. That's the low cost, no cost um, drawer organizer solution. I like it.
Tammy asked whether we'll be able to see those the visuals on the recording, and I certainly hope they are going to show up in the YouTube. And apologies to our podcast listeners that you won't have been able to see the visuals for today's show,
You just have to Google based on our descriptions.
or watch the
Oh,
YouTube
go
video,
find the
which,
video, right?
yeah, we'll have a link to that.
We're
A link
hoping
to
that we
that is
did
in
it
the show notes.
correctly. Yeah, that because he shared it.
Yeah,
We're
I feel
hoping that it's
certain
going to work.
they're gonna work. Um, let's see. What else have we got? Deborah mentioned another idea for vertical space, the tall square bookends that slot onto a shelf
Oh, yeah,
can
yeah.
be clipped onto the upper shelf in a closet to keep folded clothes and sweaters in vertical stacks without the stacks sliding sideways and toppling over.
Yes. And they do make those actually for that reason as sweater separators um, that clip onto the to that upper shelf. So those are a great way to just sort of subdivide that long tall shelf over your closet where if you touch it wrong something falls off to the side. But
Yeah.
these dividers keep them from falling away, and it's a great way to maintain your system and not have it be irritating, particularly if you're short and you're having to climb up there anyway to get it. You don't want stuff falling around while you're up there. So,
Suzanne mentions, I really like S hooks to hang anything off utility racks, rods, like different totes or bags, you name it.
right. Especially those totes that you have that are sort of permanently stocked. Like I have tote containers that have bead stuff when I travel or when I go to somebody else's house, and they say permanently packed. And so having a place to hang those so they're off the floor if you don't want the bees tripping on them, and bags are loose and floppy, and so having them hang means that they stay in their container shape better and they're out of your way. So adding an S hook onto something is a great idea. I do that a lot. Deborah says, any suggestions for what?
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that one. Let's see. Any
Oh,
suggestions for handbags and purses?
oh, okay.
This is such a PITA to store.
I know, right?
Currently have them in a lidded ottoman stuffed with random paper.
Oh, all right. So bag purses. Are we talking about purses or loose bags? So
Oh,
purses.
handbags and purses.
Okay, so purses, I would say there's basically two categories of purses. There's, big floppy ones that are have a long handle to drape over your shoulder. And then there's smaller, more contained ones that are a little bit more like, the shape of a bookcase. I mean, a book box. There are small ones that actually have a bottom that might have little feet on them that can stand up. Maybe they're clutches of some kind, or a little narrow body bag that is thin and not really. Maybe it's not sturdy, but the idea is that it's all small. So those can be stacked. They can go in magazine holders. They can go in boxes in racked up in a row. They can go in a basket racked up, and so that you can flip through them like cardstock. Like keeping the small ones in a box, in a basket, in sort of container is the best way to deal with small, unless you have room in your closet to make displays of them, and some people do that. But the larger ones, the larger bags, that even if they're larger and shaped bags, they're still big and large and in the way, and they're always too wide for a shelf in the closet. The closet shelf, if you're lucky, the closet shelf is 12 inches. If you're really lucky, it's 16 inches. And a lot of purses are wider than that. And so it's a hassle. And then mostly larger bags they're not as rigid. They tend to be floppy. And so they just collapse. There's no body structure to them. So you can stuff them with paper to keep their shape a little bit, but they still are too wide to stand on a shelf. So just stuffing them isn't a sufficient way to solve the problem. I tend to either put hooks on the walls to hang purses vertically, or I will hang them over a hanger and hang them on a closet rod hanging over a hanger, so that they are basically keeping their shape by hanging off of off the hanger on the closet rod. So you can also hang them if you have a hat rack that has hooks on it around it. You can hang those long and thin ones on a hat rack. But ultimately, if you're trying to get them in your closet and get them out of the way until you want them, hanging them on a hanger and using that space, using part of your closet rod space to hang the purses, at least generally lets them keep their shape, and it's easier for you to take them in and out. Sometimes people have pieces of wall, and it's super easy to hang hooks randomly on the wall and hang the larger purses on that. And so that's a solution I've seen used before too.
Yeah. M says, I arranged mine artfully on a wall behind the bedroom door, each on its own nail.
There you go. So you can get fancy hooks. You can, you can buy a strip that has hooks on it and hang them all together, but that will make them, kind of dense and thick in terms of storage. And so if you can figure out a way to hang them separately from each other, great. I know, Deborah, you're working with a minimum space. So you may be looking at a wall solution or hanging it on the rod solution. You may not have extra wall to hang hooks on separately, but hopefully that'll give you some ideas.
Sam says, have a purse transition station, game changer. And she also says, I keep not often used purses within luggage.
Oh, that's one way to do it. If you're aware enough of all the purses that you have, and you can go and say, "Oh, that's one I put in the luggage," then you can pull
Yeah.
the luggage out and pull it out. That works. I'm with you on that. That totally works. And the luggage can be on the ground, and it's wider, and it can hold stuff, and and it's on wheels, so it's easy to pull out and get what you want and then put back. Yeah, as long as that allows you to as long as you are willing to put the stuff back and roll the luggage back in place so that the luggage isn't open all the time with the purses in it tripping you up in the closet, then you're good. You just have to be willing to do the completion of that sequence and not get stuck with an open piece of luggage out all the time.
Gabrielle says, I made a little cabinet for miscellaneous knickknacks that I use frequently out of a wooden CD shelf in which I inserted small IKEA Scub cubes. SKUBB is the name of the
Oh,
product.
okay.
The cubes slide out easily like drawers.
Oh, that's pretty clever. I wonder what that looks like. I wish I had a picture of that. You should send us a picture.
Right?
Go to YouTube when the YouTube video goes up and post a picture of it so we can see. Because I'd like to see that. That sounds fascinating.
Okay, we are just about out of time.
Mm.
We're going to be back next week at the usual time. We're still working on what we're going to talk about, so watch your email for an announcement, but we will be back Tuesday, August 12th at the normal time. Gayle, why don't you give us the tittle?
Okay, this week's weekly tittle is take inventory of your products. This week's assignment is to review and evaluate your supply of organizing products in containers. Scan all the areas where you might have stashed products that you bought for previous projects and gather that aren't being used right now, and gather everything into one location, and then evaluate each item in your inventory by answering the following questions. What's its condition? Is it clean and in good shape? Or could you make it usable with minimal effort? Could you get out the 409 and spray it down and wipe it out and it would all be clean again? Is it cracked from long use, or is the plastic brittle from age? It's important to note that over time, particularly cheaper plastic containers will get brittle, so that while it was flexible and easy to use without cracking before, over time it might be that you push on it and immediately crack some part of it. So if it's gotten brittle with age, it's time to retire it. Why aren't you already using it? Is there something about it that you don't like? So if it's stored in storage because you brought it home and then it didn't work, or you found something annoying about it, you want to notice that and pay attention to that. Is the size wrong? Does the design of the item no longer work with your aesthetic? Maybe you bought it to match something before and it doesn't match now. What's the real likelihood that you'll find a use for the item in the reasonable near future? And then let go of any item that no longer feels like a good fit for your future organizing needs. Many nonprofits and shelters would be happy to receive your donation. And then clean anything that you think needs it, and then store what you're keeping in one or two places if possible. And think of it as your containers pantry. You just have a separate pantry that has containers in it, so that when you need something, you go to your container collection and see if you have something that will work. And so give yourself a little, time to reevaluate your blanks, the ones you're not using, and clean them up and store them again and come back and tell us how it went. We would love to hear about it.
If you're watching this on YouTube, we would love for you to join us live. To get notifications about upcoming events, we invite you to join the meetup group by visiting cfhou.com/meetup. You can also follow us on Facebook by visiting cfhou.com/Facebook, or join our mailing list by visiting cfhou.com/subscribe. We love to hear from our audience, so please keep your questions, comments, and topic suggestions coming on YouTube, Facebook, or anywhere that you find us. You can always reach us through the website at clutterfairyhouston.com.
Thanks everybody for joining us. I hope that you got some good product ideas from my list. I know it's not even scratching the surface of all the products that are out there, but these are ones that I find are tried and true. And so I hope that they were useful for you. And we will be back next week, and we're happy to see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.